Didn't go exactly as I wanted it to, but I needed to experience that. Without that, I wouldn't be where it's not just holding a knife. You want to have your hand in every pot, but you can't. Right. So you need to learn to trust and delegate. Chef at the Good King Tavern. I've worked in Philadelphia for the past 10 years. Started off front of the house. It's a food runner, a fine dining restaurant called James, and fell in love with cooking. Since then, I've worked at Fork, Russet, La Croix, and now I'm at the Good King Tavern.
What we're trying to do is to connect people in the food business to finding solutions for their next management experience. So I could be a person that it's my first chef job, it's my first management job, or it could be just a completely different animal of approach where I do have experience, but this new concept or this new job transition is maybe even a little bit out of my league, but I decide to do it because I feel I can face the challenge.
Well, I studied history and theology in college, and as a food runner at a fine dining restaurant, it was like being provided an opportunity to learn a whole new aspect of like knowledge that I was really interested in. And I remember always asking the chef just like tons of questions, and the sous chef Andrew Wood in the background would like pull me over and be like, well, in Spain in the 1600s they cooked lamb like this, and just that aspect was really, really intriguing. So being very naive, I was like, okay, I want to work in the kitchen, and they're like, fine, I'll pay you $7 an hour, and I was like, that's amazing. You're gonna pay me to actually do this stuff? Because at that point it was like magic. So like, you make a pasta, stuff like that. So from there, I started working, and then they realized they could hire someone that knew what they're doing. So they're like, you can work here for free and still work right in the house. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So went back to college, and then came back and worked at Snack Bar in May for free for the summer, and then went back to school and just couldn't really shake it off. That's what I wanted to do. So then I made that transition and started working at Fork.
Yeah, you got bit by the food bug.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much knowledge to accrue that, and it never ended. So it's just like constantly wanting to learn more. I took on a second job at the Diving Horse, summer of 2011 or 12, something like that. So I was working 7 days a week, and I got done this summer and went back to working 5 days a week, and it just didn't feel right. I was just had such momentum. So I started staging on my days off at Bistro Laminette, and I've always been attracted to French food because I'm a Francophile anyway, and decided to leave Russet and got hired as just like the protein cook, and then 2 weeks later got promoted to sous chef. So I wasn't necessarily looking for it, it was just the next step, and I never really wanted to become a sous chef unless I could answer every question, and then I realized I couldn't answer every question anyway. And it was a challenge, and pretty much within 3 weeks, Peter, the chef, kind of was like, okay, you got this, and kind of stepped away, and I just assumed that position because I didn't have any other option.
So now you're in this new position as sous chef. What were the first immediate challenges to taking on a new leadership role as opposed to just cooking?
Cooking is pretty... It's like you either got it or you don't, sort of thing, so things come easy. But trying to understand and manage people's personalities is completely different. So you're really needing to make it personal, Whereas cooking can be black and white, like don't get off my station, or like keep your station clean, that sort of thing. But being able to understand what motivates people and the best way to teach them. Like everyone has different like learning languages, so that was very difficult. Because I was like, I'm a sous chef, I need to be, so I needed to learn how to step back from that and kind of see people as people and see what could encourage them to get the food to where I wanted it to be. I've been trained by screamers, I've been trained by physically abusive people, and I've been trained by more rational types of chefs. I remember when I was at Russet, we did all whole animal butchery and whatnot. I mean, they still do. But it was myself and 2 other line cooks, and we each got a lamb. We each broke down the lamb, we each rolled it into a roulade, and then the chef cooked it. And one of my other coworkers and I had to leave early because we worked brunch, and came in the next day, and the other coworker had left all of those lambs out, like after cooked. And Andrew didn't notice it when he got in, and the one coworker just like wasn't fessing up to it. And finally the other coworker told the chef. I remember having such anxiety about the reaction, because I've been places where that would be just a terrible scenario overall. And Andrew's response was emotional. Like he was almost crying, like not, and he made it clear. He was like, yeah, I'm pissed off, but like this was a living animal that like you just treated with no respect. He was like, I don't even care about the money. And in that moment, I was able to see 2 ways of approaching something. Like reprimanding can have an effect, positive or negative, but being so emotional about it made it really sink into, like, it's like, I just really, really disappointed dad, sort of thing. Like, as opposed to, I pissed off my boss. One of the hardest parts as a new manager is defining that delicate balance. Because there were times when I screamed and threw plates and, but it always had more of an effect when it was once in a while. Because it was like, I'm serious, and if it wasn't like a yes chef or like a whatever, it was like I was gonna get that far from your face. And since then, you learn that even going that step doesn't matter. You can, if you really understand the personalities of your cooks, just looking at them in a certain way usually gets the point across. Like, what are you doing? But making them understand what they're doing, because most cooks don't. I didn't know what I was doing. I read a lot, but it's more than just holding a knife. Bistro La Manette was 66 seats. I did R&D for Le Peg for about a month and a half while still working at Bistro. And then we opened Le Peg, which was 140 seats. So it was really challenging managing a team of 6 and then opening up and having like 15 line cooks in rotation and 10 dishwashers and a huge front of the house staff. And the challenge with that was I went from a relatively small menu that was based on classics like Bistro La Manette, where everything is more or less coming from a book with personal touch. Le Peg was my food through Peter's vision. So in hindsight, I feel like since it was my first chef job, you kind of feel like God like a little bit, and everything becomes hyper personal. And so for the first couple months, you're constantly making mistakes and working with a staff that is trying to understand your nuances. It was easier to teach people bistro because you're more hands-on, but at La Peg I had 2 sous chefs and a team that I had to try to, wanted my sous chefs to see things how I did it. So then you're not only managing line cooks, you're managing a management team. And it's easy to say, well, they can't do it the way I do it. It's like a scapegoat. You want to have your hand in every pot, but you can't.
Right.
So you need to learn to trust and delegate. First of all, to be honest, I think I failed at achieving that. I knew what I wanted. I knew what needed to be done, but I don't think that I necessarily achieved it. So I attempted to just really compartmentalize roles and responsibilities. As a cook, it's really, you get taught time and time again, take ownership of your mise en place, of your station. If it's on your station, it's your fault. So me seeing my sous chefs, if something's messed up, it's you need to take ownership of it. You need to be responsible for it. Because if you're not doing your job well, I'm not doing my job well. We need, those open lines of communication need to be thoroughly defined, and that's easier said than done. Especially when when I was a sous chef, I was a little, I was arrogant, you're really think you're on top of the world. So dealing with sous chefs who are like that, who, I wanted them to want to be better than me, but learning how to deal with the ego when you also have an ego is like being in a locker room. And then trying not to have the cooks see that, because that can be cancerous. So failing in that aspect taught me more about that trust relationship than anything else. It didn't go exactly as I wanted it to, but I needed to experience that. Without that, I wouldn't be where I am.
So I really appreciate you talking about how you've moved from position to position and how different each of those opportunities were for you along the way. But maybe we can get to the point now where we can share with our audience, what is it that you could recommend to somebody that, hey, I'm a cook and I think I'm ready for this next position. I got a great opportunity. It just landed in my lap. I need to really take this slow, and I have another opportunity on the table, but I just don't even know where to begin. Do you have any recommendations for your learning process and maybe what they should think about first from your personal experience?
Yeah. Taking on that next step, that role, can be really exciting. But I think it's really, really important to understand that you're taking on a lot of responsibility. And you're not just taking it on yourself, but you're taking it on for other people. So when you take a leadership role in management, you're directly responsible for the development of your staff. And that's it's a really great gift, but it's really scary. So you need to respect it, and that starts by respecting your cooks. So I think dialogue and communication is the most important thing. It's easy to kind of think inwardly about your new job, because it can be very scary. But if you have an open line of communication with your cooks, they're going to be way more receptive to what you want and how you want it done than if you're taking a step back and just trying to direct. There's a difference between leading and directing. And they want a leader. They don't want a director to teach them. You want them to learn. You want them to grow. Because you want them to become better than you or become a chef someday. Like, I remember when I was at Fork, Terrence Fury, who was like one of my mentors, hired this pretty wonky kid. And it was very evident to me that he wouldn't work out. The kid was like, "Chef, why did you hire this guy?" And he was like, he said the magic words. He was like, "Richard," I said, "I want to be a chef." And he was like, "I don't care who you are, I will take you if that's what you want to be, because that's my job, is to make you a chef."
Thanks for joining us for Beyond the Table, and just hearing how experiences can move from one step to another. Stay tuned for more, and keep following us at Cooks Who Care.